Hey gang, number one Marmaduke fan here, looking at what if Conan the Barbarian walked the earth today? The script is written by Roy Thomas, and John Buscema and Ernie Chan are the illustrators, which I think means they shared breakdowns, penciling, and inking duties on different pages, and the same for the cover. So, wow, what a great fantasy story. I never liked the What If series too much because it always felt. I liked Elseworlds as a kid because, I could see Batman be a pirate and it'd be a pirate, but it'd also be Batman. And What If for Marvel is similar to Elseworlds in that it's kind of like a one-off, what if this happened? Well, then in this alternate dimension, this would happen. What I always liked about Elseworlds is each of them kind of became like a reflection on the core of the character. Like if you made Batman a pirate, would he still be Batman? If you made Batman a samurai and Robin his student, what's core to the characters pretty much. But I really enjoyed this What If. Now the reason I want to talk about it is talks about politics subtly, and it's just great art. I mean, it's John Buscema, right? So every time you look at John Buscema, I'm just thinking about how great a book, How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way, is on every page, every illustration. They do an homage to Frank Frazetta in this issue, and the thing about Buscema and Chan working together is they are making illustrations that feel like good old adventure book illustrations in the tradition of a character like Conan the Barbarian. So it's a highly polished, amazingly gorgeous, refined art style, which fits utterly the subject matter. And the subject matter is so problematic. Like, things that are problematic were already great and fun fantasy stories, but they become even better when you're told you're not allowed to enjoy them. So The Watcher from Marvel Comics explains that this is an alternate reality, a thing that very nearly could have been. It's kind of like 3 pages of setup just to say what if. Okay, but it's still like great, purple prose Conan the Barbarian stuff. And what kind of things does Conan the Barbarian have in it? Well, it has beautiful women who deceive Conan the Barbarian and hand him over to an evil Babylonian time traveler who explains the future to Conan, and this is how he imagines the future because he can't conceive of airplanes and cars, so that's what he thinks of when he hears the description. And so then this was actually a real Conan story, and they give you the issue you can go look up to read this Conan story. And then the what if is, as the evil Babylonians lowering him into the pit of time or whatever, instead of Conan escaping, Conan accidentally falls in, and things like this. He is a barbarian. He worships Crom. He will kill to defend himself. He will be brutal. He is a barbarian, but he is a hero. And the fact that he's a hero is shown in small moments. So this woman who betrayed him, she's getting lowered in the pit. Oh, free me too, Conan, please. I ought to toss you in. But then he picks her up and carries her out anyway. So he's rough. He is that caveman style sensibility to him. But he doesn't like kill willy-nilly, and he doesn't do things which make us dislike him because he's anti-heroic or unheroic. And she's so beautiful. It's a beautiful drawing of a beautiful woman. But the rope snaps and he falls and goes through time and appears in New York in the 70s. And like Peter Parker and Mary Jane see him. Where's that panel? In some panel, Peter Parker and Mary Jane see him. It was just a cute little moment. This is the Frank Frazetta. These punk rockers look at him and he thinks of them as like wizards, and they joke that his mother must have seen a Frank Frazetta poster. Everyone compares him to Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone, so it's pop culture relevant. But they really commit to the bit of he doesn't speak the language. And, the thing that would be terrifying for a guy in this situation is absolutely nothing would make sense. He would feel like he was thrust into a world of chaos and evil and violence and magic everywhere, and he'd just be terrified. And pretty much for the whole issue, Conan is just like a deer in the headlights, running away from things, not understanding things. There's like a gag where an old lady hits him with a purse, so he dunks her in the trash can, right? They are willing to do humor that would get them in trouble today because it wouldn't be politically correct for him to dump an old lady in the trash can. But it kind of makes the point that it's against his oath to harm a little old lady, but she attacked him and he doesn't know if she's a witch, so that's her comeuppance. This panel I really liked because it shows maybe like the importance of illustration. Like If this was a 3D model, then maybe like all the wrinkles would be realistic, but in an illustration style, you get to have maybe a bit more rhythm to things like your wrinkles, so they relate to one another, they kind of wrap you around the form, and they highlight the motion rather than just being like realistic wrinkles are good to know how to draw, but they might not necessarily be the coolest thing to look at on a figure. Whereas if you depart from reality a little bit, you can have things like the wrinkles, add to the dynamism of an individual drawing. That's the illustration style. It's not relying on a 3D model to make it work. Of course, there's a romance. So he runs into a taxi lady, and she helps him out. And so even though they can't speak the same language, he kind of senses that she's kind. And listen to this line. This is beautiful. "You're alone here in this mad, monstrous world with no man to protect you. But you've been kind to me, I think. I'll protect you if you're truly what you..." And then he gets cut off because they kiss. And that's like the universal language. He doesn't need to speak her language to understand what that means. She's really smart. She kind of puts two and two together that he's obviously from another world. This is the Marvel universe, so people are used to seeing strange things from time to time. And then they have this whole like subplot about looters, and they have like multi-ethnic looters. So the political point is looting is bad, destroying other people's property is bad, anarchy is bad, just because you have a sense of oppression. In every age, in every clime, they exist, ready to take advantage of any breakdown of social order, often in the name of dubious vengeance for real or imagined oppression. Looters. So Marvel Comics is telling you that violence and destroying private property is bad. Now, this is a message they probably couldn't get away with today. And later, you actually even get a more obvious example of that. So we see these kind of like, multiracial cops who are trying to fight the looters and the arsonists. And probably what was on the writer's mind was the Harlem riots. Because they say, and most of those hardest hit by either the looters or the arsonists will be those unfortunate souls who shared the same neighborhood and subway stop. And yes, race is those who plunder them. So this is a time period when New York really sucked, and crime in New York really sucked. Like Batman characters and Daredevil characters, they were really resonating with a major problem of not feeling safe to go out at night without getting murdered or raped, right? And so what Marvel is doing is they're making a point about the evils of looting that recognizes that the Harlem riots were a race riot, essentially, while they're not making a racist point. They're not saying black people are bad and they riot and they loot things. They are alluding to the race of the rioters and the fact that some people have a racial motivation to their rioting, to make a broader moral point that it is wrong to hurt other people. It's wrong to destroy their property. You don't get to have an excuse to loot and hurt people and destroy their property just because you have some perceived racial grievance against the white devil. And this is Marvel. I don't like the term progressive for it. This is Marvel being classically liberal. They're saying there are good people who are white, there are good people who are black. They stand up against the looters who are white and the looters who are black, which is not convenient if you're a radical SJW and you think that racism is power plus prejudice. Marvel, this is great. This is great, really simple morality. Don't break other people's toys. Meanwhile, Conan and the girl kind of figure out that he's from another time, and they figure, well, let's go to the Guggenheim, and maybe we'll find some clues to the time period you're from. And conveniently, they run into some thugs who shoot. There's a really intense, fight scene where Conan initially didn't want to kill because he understood the word no and that she didn't want him to kill people. But in self-defense, they hurt her, and he kills the guys to save both their lives. And he's able to go back. There's this really sweet moment where she gives him her cap, he gives her a gold armband, and they both say, "You do understand after all, just a little," in each other's language, using a visual metaphor to indicate the distinction in language. And he gets to go back and he keeps the memento of being there. And the tragedy is that these are two lonely people. They would have been perfect for one another, but because they come from different worlds, they can't be together, and that's the sort of sweet romantic tragedy of it. I even like how there's like a reference to Star Wars on the front. It's like Marvel bragging about how they make all the best comics and they have all the best properties. And before you think, oh well, you're just nostalgic for an old age and you only care about old comics, look at this ad: Age of Conan, Beylit, Deadly Sea of Monsters, and the Maiden Voyage of the Pirate Who Would Be Queen, Teenie Howard, Kate Niemczyk, and cover by Sanya Takeda. Those are women's names, and this is a modern comic. This is beautiful. This is what the Frank Frazetta, Conan the Barbarian fantasy is all about. Big, beautiful men, big, beautiful women, high adventure, evil sorcerers, swords fights, and big purple prose. So this ad is making me want to check this out because after reading a great Conan story, this is saying, hey, did you like that Conan story? Here are more Conan stories like that. Never let anyone tell you shouldn't enjoy classic fantasy storytelling and the tropes of classic fantasy storytelling because it's perceived as problematic through their ideological lens. They are spoiling your fun. Anyone can enjoy these things. Women can enjoy these things. Women can make these things because beauty isn't about patriarchy. Beauty is about entering into a fantasy world that is different from our own, where you can enjoy imagining beautiful adventures and sweet romances and all that kind of great stuff. Never let anyone ruin that for you, and don't be afraid to check out new examples of that and share that with others. That's it. I'm thinking about this a lot because what is it? Church? It was just in the news. You know what? That's a different video. We're over 10 minutes. Number one Marmaduke fan. Pick up What If Conan at a True Believer issue if you can find it. It's not available digitally yet, so go hunting for this one. I'm keeping this one because I usually buy the $1 ones, and if I can get it digitally, then I can give it away. No kid's getting this one. This is staying in my collection. This beautiful John Buscema and Ernie Chan art. Mad props for you guys. That's it. Number one Marmaduke fan. Love you guys. Like, comment, subscribe. Check out my subscribe star, and I will catch you later.